Hello everyone, Danny here today to talk to you about a health and nutrition style book that is most definitely meant for mature audiences. Before I get into that though, I have a favor to ask. If, like me, you love audiobooks, do me a favor please, subscribe to my channel. Join me on my audiobook journey. Now, to the book. I'm actually going to read the title of this book because it's a long title. The title of the book is Own the Day, Own Your Life. Optimized Practices for Waking, Working, Learning, Eating, Training, Playing, Sleeping, and Sex. 8 different items in the title right there. Written and narrated by Aubrey Marcus. Now, if you don't know who Aubrey Marcus is, he is the founder and CEO of Onnit, which is a very large nutritional supplement company. Really didn't know much more about him than that prior to the book. One of the reasons why, normally when I read a title, I'll be like, Own the Day, and leave the rest of the title out to keep it short. One of the reasons why I wanted to read One of the reasons why I wanted to read the entire title, there we go, is because Mr. Marcus covers every single one of those topics pretty in depth in the book. Typically, when you get a title with a book that lists, 8 to 12 things that the book is supposed to be covering, it's got 1 or 2 of those items that it delves pretty deeply into, and then the rest of them it just kind of touches on, and the author's kind of like, hey, you got to get it for yourself kind of a thing. That's not the case here. He really does go in depth in a lot of this. Now, the reason I say it's a book meant for mature audiences is the language. He definitely does swear in this book. And some of the subject matter as well. When he says sex, he means he's got a chapter in there on optimizing your sex. Now, in that chapter, excuse me here, it's not a chapter that necessarily says, hey, to optimize your sex, when you're in bed, do step A, do this is the correct way to do, this sexual act or anything like that. Instead, it is setting yourselves up so that physically you can optimize the sex. One of the things I like about that chapter, and it was actually one of my favorite chapters in the book, was his chapter on sex. He stresses the fact that the most important organ in the body to be used for sex is the tongue for talking. And I agree with him on that. And I like the fact that he stresses that to communicate, that's a big major thing that he stresses. But he covers using nutrition and sleep and different things to optimize your body so your body is primed and ready to go. That's what he does with the chapter on work, with the chapter on learning, with all the chapters. It's using nutrition, using sleep, using maybe some, and here's another thing, he covers using some substances to optimize your practices that I don't agree with him on. Things that I personally would be completely unwilling to touch. I'm okay with that. I don't have to agree with everything an author says. If I agree with everything an author of a book like this says, 99% of the time, I didn't learn anything. I just had my own beliefs reinforced. The fact that he addresses nicotine and tobacco and using nicotine and tobacco in what he considers a safe manner. He addresses using marijuana in what he considers a safe manner. Alcohol, now I do have the occasional drink of alcohol, but out of everything that he listed in there, alcohol was the one and only thing that I myself personally would be willing to use. None of the other stuff would I be willing to touch. And as a teenager, if I'd have listened to this book, it would have really convinced me to have gone out and tried those things. So there's subject matter in the book that myself, I would not have wanted my kids or my teenagers to listen to, because they're too young to hear the message behind the message. And the message behind the message was that, and this is the author's message. The author's message behind the message was, not my message, the author's message. I want to make that clear. The author's message behind the message was, I could tell you don't smoke. I could tell you don't use marijuana. I could tell you don't use these other drugs and things. The reality of it is, most of you are going to go out and do it anyhow. So rather than telling you don't do it, I'm going to tell you how to do it in a safe and productive manner. That was the author's message. And I can kind of see where he's coming from. I can actually, not kind of, I can see where he's coming from with his message. It's just not something I necessarily agree with, but didn't ruin the book for me by any stretch at all. It's one of the more entertaining health and fitness books that I have ever listened to. Don't know that I really learned a whole lot from this book. That there's too many other books that I've listened to that covered similar, information. If I was interested in using nicotine safely and gaining what he says are the benefits of using nicotine, then I would have learned something from it. I'm not interested in that. If I was interested in using marijuana safely and gaining, the areas where I would have learned something that truly benefited me I'm getting a little too close here, sorry, are areas where I just have no interest in using the subject matter at hand, and so I'm not going to use the subject matter at hand. The narrator is the author, and this is one of those cases where for the book to be good and the book to be right, the narrator had to be the author. What I did get from this book, and one of the things that I really enjoyed about this book, was the author's attitude towards life and towards owning the day and towards owning different things. And hang on a second here. I don't think another narrator would have been able to express that attitude nearly as well as the author did. You get the attitude not only from the words, but from the author himself. And it is a motivating, inspiring kind of a book. It's also very educational. He's worked with some professional MMA fighters, and he tells stories about them and talks about some of them. There are some, not really graphic, but some stories that he tells, like naked wrestling or naked jiu-jitsu with his fiance, like that, to give you an idea of kind of the flavor of the book. And like I said, he does swear a lot. He covers every single one of those topics in depth. He deals a lot with nutrition. The exercises, when he gets into the exercise portion of the book, he's aiming his exercises at functionality. And he focuses a lot on body weight and on kettlebells, on using kettlebells. There are several PDFs that go with the book that he refers you to. There's even some recipes that he's included with some of this subject matter where you're like, okay, I'd like to be able to make that smoothie or that dish. Well, if you buy the audiobook, then you can get access to the PDF and you can get the recipe that he's talking about. That's always really nice, because it's always frustrating when a book talks about, there's this food that you should eat or this recipe, and you're left going, wow, that sounds really good. I'd like to be able to make that. and you can't make it. There's some apps that are not his apps. There's a sleep rhythm thing that he talks about in optimizing your sleep, kind of a what's the word I'm looking for here? Anyhow, it's a way to tweak your sleep using rhythm in the two ears. And he's paid for some of this. I haven't tried it. I haven't downloaded it. I haven't tried it. But he's got portions of it that he's made available for free to people who buy the book, so that you can try it. And then if you decide, hey, I want the full program, you can go out and buy the full program. And my understanding from the book is it's not his program. It's not something he designed. He's not making any money off of it. It's just something he's doing for his users. That being said, if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like my channel, subscribe, turn on notifications. But most importantly, no matter what else you do today, make sure that today you listen to at least one really good book, and I'm not going to say the whole title, but I do recommend, just not around children, that you listen to Own the Day by Aubrey Marcus. Thank you. Have a good day.